adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends. Starring the jet-age aerial ace, Rocket J. Squirrel. And his pal, Bullwinkle the Moose.
Hi, glad to see you again.
Likewise.
We got some great things on the show today.
Like what? Like what?
Well, you ought to know, Bullwinkle. You're in some of them.
Well, let's get started.
Well, our boys finally made it to Peaceful Valley, Missouri, and found it to be a lovely town, particularly with a public square all decorated like this.
There's just one thing that bothers me, Bullwinkle.
You're lucky I got dozens.
Where's all the people?
Hey, that's right.
Oh, if Bullwinkle had only known.
What do you think, Caleb? Be they Floys or bean't they Floys?
Well, my feuding guide don't list no Floys with antlers, but we better not take chances.
You mean we plug 'em anyways?
You bet.
What if we're wrong?
We can always apologize.
Caleb, you ought to be with the United Nations.
Who's feuding with them?
Seems like they're near everybody.
And meanwhile, on the other side of the square...
Speak up, Ephraim. Be they hatfuls or bean't they hatfuls?
Well, that there biggin looks like a hat rack.
That's close enough. Ready, aim.
Of course, our heroes were blissfully unaware of the danger that threatened them until the sharp-eyed squirrel suddenly remarked...
Bullwinkle, these decorations aren't for the Bam-Bams at all.
They're not.
No, sir. They're commemorating the 150th anniversary of the feud.
The feud?
You know, it's like a war between families.
In Minnesota, we call that in-law trouble.
No, look here. In memory of 150 years of bloodshed. Happy anniversary.
Who's feuding?
Says here it's the Hatfuls against the Floys.
Here's kind of a cute one, Rock. There's no feud like an old feud.
But our friends wouldn't have been so carefree if they had known that Peaceful Valley was in reality a kind of no-man's land in the most ferocious feud ever fought.
Try fit.
Yes, ever fit.
While we're waiting, I'll take your picture, Bullwinkle.
Okay, how's this pose?
Great. Wait till I set the lens opening.
Well, hurry up and shoot. I can't hold this all day.
Let's see. F8 at 100th, or is it 150th?
Come on, shoot.
What?
I said shoot, shoot. Now, that's what I call service.
Bullwinkle, we're right in the middle of the feud.
And what's more...
What's more?
I didn't get my picture took.
We gotta get out of town, Bullwinkle.
But we just got here.
Yeah, but if we stay here much longer, we're gonna stay here much longer.
I guess you're right.
And our boys crawled under a hail of lead toward the outskirts of town.
Ratting at it, Caleb, can't you hit 'em?
Nope, them fellers must have charmed lives.
You'd think they was TV heroes.
But just then, a messenger ran in.
Hey, Pa,
Speak up, Clive. Don't mumble.
the Floys is shooting at them fellers, too.
Well, then they must be on our side. Hold your fire.
And at the same time, on the other side of the square...
Hey, Ephraim, the hatfuls are shooting at those fellers, too.
Then they must be on our side. Stop shooting!
And so a deathly hush suddenly fell over Peaceful Valley.
Couldn't you make it some other kind of hush?
Now's our chance, Bullwinkle. We gotta make a dash for safety.
And there it is now, Rock, the city limit.
Careful, Bullwinkle, it may be a trap.
A trap?
Somebody may be hiding behind that sign.
Nonsense. Who could hide behind that itty-bitty sign?
We could!
It's the Hatfuls.
Didn't I see you fellers stuffed in a telephone booth one time?
They're not on our side, Pa. Look at it. They ain't got no beards.
But I'm growing a beard.
When did you start?
Just a minute ago.
How about you?
I'm a little young.
Too bad we're feuding with the youngs, too. Take 'em away, Caleb.
Where to?
Where else? Take 'em to Devil Dan Hatful himself.
Oh, not Devil Dan.
Couldn't we be easy on 'em and shoot 'em right here?
Be with us next time when we'll see Devil Dan Thinks It Over or Feud for Thought.
And if you happen to have a beard handy, send it in.
A young man should have three things: money, good looks, and a sense of humor. In that order. Alden Farquhar had the good looks and the sense of humor.
Gosh, I'm handsome.
You see what I mean? But when it came to money, he was woefully lacking.
Gosh, I'm poor.
But money isn't everything. Alden was constantly besieged by a bevy of beautiful maidens, and he laughed easily at anything and everything.
Ouch!
It was while he was strolling through the kingdom one day that his life took the wrong turn on the freeway. For up ahead, a dark figure was bent over pulling weeds, and pinned on the back of that dark figure was a sign that said,
"Kick me and get a surprise."
Alden couldn't resist. He booted.
Ow!
Mother of pearl, I kicked a witch.
You know what I do to young men who boot me? I cast a spell on them.
But my name is Alden Farquhar.
From this day on, you'll be as ugly as all get out, and you will remain ugly until the day that a fair maiden kisses you.
Well, you couldn't get much more ugly than what Alden became. He was beastly looking.
Oh, boy. Now what am I going to do? I lost my looks, my sense of humor.
But that third commodity, the one he had always lacked, suddenly came his way.
Oh, don't eat me, Ogie. Please don't eat me.
What are you talking about? I just had lunch.
If you don't eat me, Ogie, I will remunerate you.
What does that mean?
I'll give you money.
Oh.
And the poor, frightened man showered golden coins at Alden's beastly feet. By sundown, 43 passers-by had passed by Alden and donated to the cause.
I'm rich. Now I can live in the manner to which I'm unaccustomed.
The first thing on his list was an abode to dwell in.
Yes, that castle up on the hill, that's for sale. I'll tell you what, buddy. If you don't eat me, I'll let you have it for cheap.
Well, like for how cheap?
Well, how about for nothing?
The price was right, so Alden moved in. Then he settled down to a life of luxury, and every hour, on the hour, he counted his money.
22 million?
It was the same old story. Whenever he wanted to bolster or replenish his monetary supply, he simply walked through the streets of a nearby village shouting,
Yoo-hoo! It's me, Alden! I've come to eat you!
Inside of a year, Alden was a millionaire 10 times over. It was just about that time that the old witch whom Alden had kicked received a group of visitors.
10 beautiful maidens? What could you possibly want from me?
Can you tell us what happened to Alden Farquhar?
That name rang a bell. And sure enough, there on page 462 of her income tax report was the story of how she had changed Alden into a beast, which was deductible.
Then the beast that lives in the castle is really our beloved Alden.
Yes, and all you have to do is kiss him. That'll break the spell, and I'll no longer be able to claim him as a dependent.
That evening, Alden sat before a fire pasting $1,000 bills in a scrapbook when suddenly...
I have come to kiss you, Alden, and return you to your former handsome self.
Then Alden realized that he would lose his livelihood if he were no longer a beast.
Stop! Don't take another step.
Let me take you away from all this.
He made faces guaranteed to frighten anyone, but the damsel was dedicated. He sought refuge in the castle basement.
Kiss me, my fool.
Off he went, seeking someplace devoid of kissing females. But no matter in which room he ran, he always found a puckered damsel waiting. Finally, on the castle roof...
They've got me outnumbered, but they'll never find me up here.
Let's play post office, Alden.
How about spin the bottle?
Halt and desist. Pursue me one step more, and I shall fling myself over the parapet.
But, Alden, there's no water in the moat.
Who cares? I can't swim anyway.
Well, we can't let you throw your life away.
Then you'll leave me?
We love you, Alden, but not enough to hurt you.
Well, I'm glad you've come to your senses. Farewell.
Farewell. Well, aren't you going to kiss us goodbye?
Yes, I suppose it's the least I can do.
The wiles of the female.
What have I done? Or rather, what have you done?
Thus Alden Farquhar once more became handsome. He also got back his sense of humor. But the money ran out, and he also became penniless again.
Yoo-hoo, it's me, Alden. I've come to eat you.
As before, that call brought immediate response, only this time the villagers threw garbage, not money.
I don't want to be handsome. I want to be ugly and rich. I want to be a beast again.
And so, dear friends, if ever you're bending over pulling weeds and someone gives you a good solid pick, don't be too harsh on him. It may be Alden Farquhar.
World with his 2 cents worth.
Hello there. Today our subject is how to be a top-flight stock salesman. Well, I see here conditions look very favorable for a upturn for Amalgamated Railroad.
Okay, I buy it.
But before I can safely recommend it, I owe it to my clients to inspect the equipment.
Never mind, I'll buy it.
Sir, I never sell a stock unless I am absolutely certain the value of the company is there. Next, we have a stock I can stand behind 100%, Amalgamated Electronics. In fact, I can safely say this is the most attractive stock in electronics.
What does it attract?
Lightning. But wait kindly, sir. I can, in good faith, sell you Amalgamated Barrel Stave at 10 cents a share.
I'll buy it.
Oh, wonderful. It's already up to 50 cents. $1, $5, 30, 250. It's split. 4,000, 50,000, 200,000.
I'm rich.
Oops. Back to 5 cents. 4, 1. I'm sorry you're wiped out. You've lost everything you have.
Well, only one thing to do.
Oh, these Wall Street traditions.
Gee, Mr. Know-It-All, if one of your clients just jumped out the window of a tall building like this, how come you look so happy?
I just remembered. Last week I sold him Amalgamated Ambulance, and now it's sure to go up.
Dog team, what most Canadians use in the winter, and what some people call the Philadelphia Phillies. Here in the gold rush town of Skagway, dogs were used for other things beside teams. Take the annual sled pulling contest.
All right, boys. The man who can get his pup to pull this heavy sled across the street wins $10,000.
By nightfall, not one canine had been able to budge the sled. That's when a tall, dark mustache appeared with a man behind it. Yes, Snidely Whiplash, Canada's Black Penny, had turned up again.
You in the contest, mister?
No, but my dog is.
Actually, it was a bull elephant, but Whiplash had taught it to scratch its ear, so no one knew the difference.
All right, Spot, pull the sled.
Unlike the others who yelled mush, Whiplash yelled
Sabu!
And the contest was no contest. Snidely had the $10,000, and what's more, he and Spot returned to Skagway every year and continued their winning ways.
Here's the $10,000, Mr. Whiplash.
Hands up, the Spot hasn't pulled yet.
Spot doesn't have to. No one's challenging.
Of course, you can get away with something like that just so long, and then the mounted police are bound to hear about it.
Did you hear about it, Do-Right?
Yes, Inspector, I heard about it.
That's as far as it got until the following year.
Citizens of Skagway, your climate is superb, your hospitality boundless. But as far as this sled pulling contest is concerned, Spot and I are fed up.
How can you say that, Mr. Whiplash?
In 6 different languages, but it all means the same. We are bored. We need some competition.
And that's why an appeal was made to the Mounties.
Send Do-Right in here.
Do-Right is confined to barracks, sir.
By whose orders?
Do-Right's.
Oh. Do-Right, come out of there. Take your dog up to Skagway and pull a sled across the street.
No to all 3, sir.
What do you mean, no to all 3?
My dog won't go up to Skagway, pull a sled across the street, or let me out of the barracks. Will you, dog?
Dudley's faithful dog, in reality a thoroughbred wolf, had turned on his master.
He has a nasty disposition. Why don't you try muzzling him?
I did, but he ate the muzzle.
Then send him to a dog trainer.
Same as the muzzle, sir.
Roll over.
Faithful dog obeyed his normal instinct.
You certainly know how to handle animals, sir.
There's only one way to handle a brute like that. Corporal Muggadugger, place Do-Right's dog under arrest.
By 4 that afternoon, every man in the post had been driven into the barracks.
Men, we have an odd situation on our hands. How's the foot, Muggadugger?
The foot's okay, but I won't be going out for polo this year.
Quick, Inspector. Nell is entering the post.
Daddy, wherefore art thou, Daddy?
Oh, she must have gone for her Shakespeare lesson again. Nell, darling.
Where are you, Daddy?
Nell, my dearest, beware of the dog, else he will tear you to ribbons.
Too late. Faithful Dog had spotted her. Ah, but Nell always carried a popcorn bag. She had the wolf eating out of her hands in no time.
Well, Inspector, I guess we can follow those orders now.
What orders were those?
Don't you remember?
No, do you?
No.
Why not take a vacation?
A keen idea, sir. Faithful Dog and I shall journey up to Skagway and enter the sled-pulling race.
Skagway?
Dudley and his loyal companion made it to the bustling little gold rush town on the final day of competition.
Mr. Whiplash and his dog Rover. Spot, I'm sorry. Anyway, they are the only ones to get the sled across the street. Now, before I hand over the 10,000, is there anyone else who'll try?
Aye, Constable Do-Right of the Mounties will essay.
Curses, that numbskull might luck out.
As a precautionary measure, Whiplash drove stakes into the earth and then roped the sled firmly to them.
I don't care how strong his dog is, he'll never be able to move that sled.
What Whiplash didn't know was that this was the earthquake season. Sure enough, a tremor began in the glacier regions and manifested itself directly on the street of Skagway. The entire gathering was catapulted to the opposite side of the road. But Dudley, Faithful Dog, and the sled got there first.
A new world's record. Here's the money, Constable.
And so you see, Inspector, my vacation was not in vain.
No, it was in Skagway, wasn't it?
With the prize money, I bought some gifts from Snidely Whiplash. A king-size pipe for you, sir.
Wonderful.
And a king-size monocle for you, Nell, for your bad eye.
Oh, peachy.
What about yourself, Dudley?
For me, I bought a king-size dog.
Last time, you remember, our heroes found themselves in the middle of an old Missouri feud between the Hatfuls and the Floyds. They were shot at by both sides, and when they tried to get out of town, were captured by a gang of Hatfuls.
A hatful of hatfuls, you might say.
If you were in a joking mood.
Which we aren't.
Now they're being taken before the leader of the Hatful clan, Devil Dan Hatful himself.
Or you can take the easy way out and jump off in this here cliff.
I think we'll see Mr. Dan instead.
I was just trying to be helpful.
Anything I don't trust, it's a helpful, hostile hatful.
I'm glad you said that.
Why?
I couldn't have.
Where is this Devil Dan?
Right through this here doorway.
Sure enough, on the other side of the door, Devil Dan Hatful was... Say, you're not Devil Dan, you're...
Consan ye, you varmint, don't be for sneaking up on me deady ways.
But you're really...
Really who, Flatlander?
Really, Devil Dan! Devil Dan!
You better believe it, buddy. Who be that? It be Caleb, Devil Dan. I be bringing a couple of strangers. Who be ye, breeby, he, oh, boy, this cotton pond dialect is tough. Who be ye bringing? A moose and a squirrel. Moose and squirrel? Well, come in.
And our heroes entered the shack to find themselves staring straight at the barrel of a long rifle.
And what's worse, it's staring back.
Are you Devil Dan?
Couldn't you tell by the beard?
Yeah, that's a real ugly mess of chin spinach, all right.
Yeah, but that voice, I could swear.
Better not, Rock.
Well, it's been nice meeting you. Goodbye now.
Goodbye? You mean you're going to stand us up against a wall outside and blast us?
Of course not.
No.
I stand you against wall inside and blast you.
Well, that's more like it.
You're really going to do it?
Of course, his old mountain custom, you know. On top of old Smoky, all covered with curls, I'm shooting with rifles at mooses and squirrels, with a 1 and a 2 and a... Oh, piece page, the telephone machine. Devil Dan Hatful, the mountain troubadour.
I want to speak to that nincompoop, Boris Badenov.
Nincompoop? Who is this?
Fearless leader. Who's this?
Nincompoop.
Have you made contact with Moose and Squirrel yet?
No, but I'm just about to.
Remember, Badenoff, they must be kept safe and sound until I arrive.
Till you arrive?
Jawohl. You didn't think I'd let you handle anything this big alone, did you?
You mean I got to treat them, you'll pardon the expression, nice?
Correct.
And so when Boris turned to our heroes again...
Okay, Mr. Hatful, we're ready.
Never mind the blindfold. I'm nearsighted anyways.
Todd and dink my naps. Couldn't you fellas take a little mountain-type joke?
Joke?
Sure. See, the gun isn't even loaded. Now.
And while our heroes ponder the sudden change in Devil Dan Hatful, many thousands of miles away, a sinister black missile is being raised to its launching pad.
Beginning countdown. 30 seconds.
Are you sure you want to make this trip, fearless leader?
Of course, Professor. We mustn't leave Badenoff alone a minute longer than we have to.
Very well, but I didn't think you...
You aren't supposed to think, Professor. Just get this thing off the ground, or else.
Yes, fearless leader.
4, 3, 2, 1...
And with a roar, the sleek black missile zoomed upward. Its destination, Rocky and Bullwinkle. Don't miss our next exciting episode, Calling Fearless Leader or Whistle for the Missile.
Well, I guess that about wraps up another Rocky show.
Certainly hope you enjoyed it. I did. I always say.
Bullwinkle, time for us to go.
Already? Okay, but first, here are some of the people who made this show impossible. My fingers get tired. Oop! Got away from me again.
Well, see you next time. Ready, Bullwinkle? Alley!
Oop!
Time now for the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and friends.
Starring that jet-A Jerry Lace, Rocket J. Squirrel. And his pal, Bullwinkle the Moose.
Hi, glad to see you again.
Likewise.
We got some great things on the show today.
Like what? Like what?
Well, you ought to know, Bullwinkle. You're in some of them.
Well, let's get started.
Well, our heroes are all tangled up in another plot. This one has to do with a feud between the Hatfuls and the Floyds. They've been captured by the leader of one of the clans, Devil Dan Hatful.
Who looks remarkably like Boris Badenoff.
The disguised Boris got a shock when a telephone call from Fearless Leader told him to keep our heroes safe and sound until he arrived. That's why we find the boys having lunch with their worst enemy.
Have some more chicken. Plenty more where that came from.
Yeah, where'd it come from?
From an egg.
No, from neighbor's chicken coop.
But a few thousand miles away from this love feast, fearless leader was preparing to make the trip to Peaceful Valley in the fastest way possible by rocket.
We mustn't leave Bad Enough in charge too long. Fire one.
But, fearless leader, I think...
Don't think, just do what I tell you.
Well, you're the boss.
You're so right.
And in a moment, the sleek black missile was zooming skyward.
Professor, it was a successful shot.
Perfect. He's in orbit right now.
In orbit? But that means he can't get down.
It was true, the missile had gone into orbit and was circling the Earth at tremendous speed.
Professor, what were you thinking of?
Nothing. Fearless leader told me not to.
Come along.
But I obeyed the orders of fearless leader.
Congratulations. You will be the most loyal Pennsylvanian we ever executed.
But let's draw the curtain on this painful scene and return to Peaceful Valley, where Devil Dan is growing impatient.
Also whiskers.
If you'll excuse me a second, I got to go slap the hogs.
Gee, he's a peach.
I think he's a double-crossing crooked killer.
Yeah, but for a double-crossing crooked killer, he's a peach.
Meanwhile, in the other room...
Boris, why you're beating your head against the wall?
I'm not used to being nice to people. I got to hurt somebody.
But why yourself?
I was handy.
But at that moment, Boris heard a familiar voice.
Let me down from this contraption, or I'll have the head of every man, woman, and child in the country.
Natasha, did you hear what I heard?
I hope not.
Bullwinkle, did you see what I saw?
No, my antlers don't fit through the window.
Come on outside, Bullwinkle. Here it comes again.
Yes, the missile containing Fearless Leader was orbiting over Peaceful Valley every few minutes.
Down from your head will roll from bone to water and coast to coast, and you're going to be among the first.
Bullwinkle, that's an orbiting satellite.
Looks more like a feller in a rocket.
It was, and he's stuck up there. He'll keep going on forever.
Well, maybe he likes to travel.
Yeah, but he may starve up there.
Well, that's different. Let's get a big cannon.
You're not going to shoot him down.
Nope, I'm going to shoot a chicken leg up to him.
What?
Sort of a guided drumstick.
Well, I got a better idea.
You usually do.
I'm going to fly up there and stop that missile.
That's a better idea.
Just a short distance away, in a cold, clammy duck blind...
Hush, something's coming over now, Clem.
I'll shoot it, Harlow.
Sure don't look much like a duck.
What do you mean?
Ain't got no wings, got no feathers, and it's 50 feet long.
But on t'other hand,
What?
it's the first thing that's flew over today.
You're right, Clem.
Professor, you clumsy fools, I'll have you drawn and quartered.
You know something, Clem?
What's that, Harlow?
Didn't sound like a duck, neither.
Meanwhile, back at the shack...
Ready, Bullwinkle?
As ever.
Ellie!
Oop!
And the plucky squirrel hurtled high into the air just as the missile came into view once again. But Fearless Leader, thinking Rocky was an American anti-missile missile, began to unlimber a fearsome weapon.
Jawohl, this is my anti-missile.
Oh, boy, watch next time for Rocky Takes the High Road or Missile in the Thistle.
Time for that jolly juggler, Bullwinkle.
Oh, dear.
3 at once. 1, 2.
And now here's a feature you're sure to like.
3.
This is the way the story of Little Fred Riding Hood begins. Little Fred Riding Hood lived in a little woods in a little house with his little mother. As a lad, it could not be said that he was good-looking. Nor very smart, for he could only count up to 1.
1?
And he did that badly. But the one thing that could be said about Little Fred Riding Hood was that he had a beautiful voice and could sing like a bird. And one morning, his mother said to him,
Freddie, dear.
Yes, Ma?
If you don't stop that off-key singing around the house, I'm going to lay into you with this broom.
But, Ma, Granny spent a fortune giving me singing lessons.
Yes, I know she did, and I think it's high time we got even with her. Now, here, take this basket of sheet music and go through the woods to Granny's house. Sing to her for a change and see how she likes it.
And so, taking the basket, little Fred Riding Hood skipped merrily off into the woods. Skipping is a very hard way to travel, and Fred was out of condition anyway, so a short time later, he stopped to rest.
I will take 5 by this hollow stump.
But no sooner did Fred sit down than he heard an awful commotion within that stump.
Oh, ow, ouch. Oh, my God. Ouch, ouch.
And there were 2 funny little men with high-pointed hats, and their long gray beards were tied firmly together.
What are you 2 doing in there?
We live in here.
But our beards have become tangled, and I fear we'll have to go through life looking each other in the eye.
Can you help us?
Well, being a good lad, Fred agreed to try.
Hold tight. I'll rip you apart.
Will it hurt?
Oh! Yes.
Bidding them farewell, little Fred Riding Hood continued on his way to Granny's house.
Oh, he was a good boy. I think we ought to reward him for being so kind to us.
Good idea. Let's cast a spell that'll make him grow more handsome every minute.
And so they did, and so he did. For unknown to Fred, with every step he took, he became better looking, and better looking until he was by far the handsomest man in the country.
Oh, what a handsome lad!
How good looking! He's beautiful.
Hi, sweetie.
What's the matter? You all nuts or something?
But looking at his reflection in a meat market window, he saw that it was true. He was good looking.
Well, if that don't punch a hole in the boat.
The young ladies of the city were unable to control themselves at the sight of little Fred Handsome Riding Hood, and the poor lad was mobbed.
You 2 funny little men are pretty funny. Now, come on, make me unhandsome so I can get to Granny's.
As this was his desire, they changed him back to plain old Fred.
That's better. Now, I'll give you my lunch of cookie sandwiches to keep you busy. No more tricks now.
And with that, Fred once more set off down the road for Granny's house.
Wasn't that sweet of him to give us his lunch?
It certainly was. Let's reward him.
He looks awful thin. Let's cast a spell that will fatten him up.
They did. And just as before, with every step little Fred Riding Hood took, he grew fatter, fatter, and fatter until he weighed over 700 pounds. Needless to say that when he stepped onto the high bridge that crossed the river, it collapsed with a roar.
They did it again.
And Fred waddled back to the hollow stump as fast as his obese little legs could carry him.
All right, you guys, knock it off.
He did get a little fatter than we figured.
So be it.
And Fred was returned to normal.
Why do you 2 keep casting spells onto me?
Because each time we've met, you have done a good deed for us.
And that is our way of rewarding you.
Some reward?
It was now growing quite late, and Fred hurried off down the road, but this time he ducked behind a large tree a short distance away and waited until he was sure the 2 funny little men were fast asleep.
I've got to do something to make them mad so they'll stop rewarding me, or I'll never get to Granny's.
Knowing that the little men were very proud of their long gray beards, Fred stole up to the hollow stump and, with a snip of his scout knife, he cut them off.
What happened?
Someone cut off our beards.
Who would do such a thing?
I would do such a thing, and I did. So long, fellas.
What a crazy kid, huh? What are you looking at?
You. You're a girl. What are you looking at?
You're a girl, too.
How do you like that? We're a couple of little witches.
And to think we'd never have known if that nice boy hadn't cut off our beards.
We should reward him.
That's a good idea. We'll cast a spell that will make a gold coin drop out of his mouth every time he opens it.
And they did, so that when little Fred Riding Hood finally reached Granny's house and opened his mouth to sing, instead of a lovely song, a gold coin dropped out of his mouth. Then another, and another, and another. And he paid off happily ever after, which you have probably already guessed is the way the story of little Fred Riding Hood ends.
Hi, poetry people! Today's poem is the saga of a singing waiter, Tommy Tucker. That's me. Little Tommy Tucker sings for his supper. What shall he have? Brown bread and butter. How shall he...
Waiter?
Sir?
How's the Irish stew tonight?
Oh, the taters are old and the meat is a fright. Everything is left over from Saturday night. We sweep it all up, put it into a pot, and tell you it's real Irish stew that we got.
What about the chicken liver?
Way down upon the Swanee River, far, far away, 2, 3, 4. There, they embalm our chicken liver, and that's what you get today.
Maybe I'll just have salad with Russian dressing.
Russian dressing! Tomatoes, beets, and ketchup. We used to make it red. Just put it on your salad and you'll wish that you were dead. Hey!
Psst. Tommy Tucker, I got something for you.
What is it, boss? My brown bread and butter?
No, this.
How about that? 5 minutes on the job and already I got a raise.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
But...
See? Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! Wrong hat.
And now it's time to meet Mr. Peabody.
Hello out there. Peabody, Sherman, and Wayback here.
He's Mr. Peabody.
He's Sherman, and if the Wayback could talk, it would tell you that it's the Wayback. Today, Sherman and I are going to explore the 5 senses.
You mean like taste, smell?
No, Sherman. The 5 senses as in nickel. Specifically the Indian head nickel, and we shall be on hand to help in the engraving of the first coin of that kind.
The year?
1869.
The place?
The plains of Wyoming. We entered the Wayback Machine and were promptly transported to our destination, and there, standing behind his easel, stood the noted artist and engraver, Talbot Heffelfinger.
Hi, Mr. Heffelfinger. How's the Indian head coming?
See for yourself, son.
You can imagine our surprise when we saw an excellent likeness of Mahatma Gandhi.
That's wrong, Mr. Heffelfinger.
He's an Indian, isn't he?
Well, yes, but the wrong variety.
Look, I've been commissioned by the government to paint a picture of an Indian head, and so far the only one I've seen was a fella named Tonto who was on his way to Hollywood.
Mr. Peabody can find an Indian for you to paint, can't you, Mr. Peabody?
As usual, Sherman's faith in me was justified. We packed up Talbot Heffelfinger's equipment and adjourned to the nearest fort.
I'd like to help you, but there ain't no Injuns around here.
Oh, yes, there are, and I'll show you how we can meet one. I built a small fire, borrowed an army blanket, and proceeded to send a column of smoke into the sky.
I tell you, you're wasting your time.
I never waste my time. Suddenly, the silence of the vast plains was split with the cries of war whoops.
Indians! We're being attacked!
Indeed we were, but by one lone brave.
I don't get it. How'd you force that Injun into attacking us?
The smoke signal. There in the sky, directly over the fort, were the words, Custer won. I knew that would make any Indian mad. All right, Mr. Heffelfinger, go out and ask him to pose. Unfortunately, however, this was to be a still life portrait, and the Indian was anything but still.
I've got it. I've got it.
All he got was the tail end of the horse.
That isn't good enough?
Hardly.
Gee, Mr. Peabody, he'll never be able to paint with a horse running around like that. How can we get the horse to stop?
Well, that's simple, Sherman. Just say, whoa.
Whoa!
But although the horse desisted, the Indian didn't.
Too bad there isn't something to make a human stop.
Ah, but there is. In a matter of minutes, I had constructed a stoplight. Now, Mr. Heffelfinger, paint your subject. The highly elated artist threw himself into his work and 1 hour later returned with a finished product.
It's the best thing I've ever done.
It was quite good. That is, if you care for stoplights.
You didn't paint the Indian.
Indian?
There was no other course but to try it over again, but by this time the Indian had tired of the attack.
He's gone.
But not forgotten. Sure enough, there were moccasin prints leading off into the wilderness.
I think I'll just mail in the picture of Mahatma Gandhi and forget it.
I'm afraid that won't do, Talbot. With me leading the way, naturally, the hunt was on. Shortly before sundown, we reached an embankment overlooking an Indian village.
Indians! Hundreds and hundreds of Indians!
Please, Mr. Heffelfinger, restrain yourself, or you'll get us captured.
You same pale-face who try painting my picture, you beginning to bug me.
Yes, but Chief, your picture will be on every nickel in the United States.
And in Canada, too.
Tell 'em you what. You beat 'em strongest warrior in village, you get 'em paint my picture.
I'll do it. Who is your strongest warrior?
Standing Bear.
He was standing all right, and he was a bear.
Well, I can't fight a real bear.
Of course you can, Talbot. Do as I say, and you're sure to win. And with that, the valiant artist entered into the fray. He was obviously outclassed.
What now, Peabody?
Make it 2 out of 3. Make it 3 out of 5. 5 out of 7. Now make it 75,000 out of 4,298,000.
I can't do it. I can't go on any longer.
You won't have to, sir. Look at your adversary.
He won, Mr. Peabody.
He didn't win me, Sherman. He won the fight. Curious thing about bears, after fighting 1 or 2 days, they seem to lose their stamina. Talbot Heffelfinger, on the other hand, was full of vim and vigor and proceeded to paint the head of the Indian chief.
He's a chief, Mr. Peabody?
Why, yes, the most famous of all the Hanka Indians. Don't tell me you've never heard of the Hankas.
Oh, I've heard of them all right, but I never heard of him.
You've never heard of Hanka Chief?
Well, last time, Bullwinkle had tossed Rocky high into the air in a desperate attempt to intercept the misguided missile which was carrying, of all people, fearless leader himself. But the evil-minded villain thought Rocky was an American anti-missile missile, and so began to assemble his secret weapon, an anti-missile.
Let's see. Put tab C in slot A, bend flap G. Donnerwetter, this is the last secret weapon I ever got out of a cereal box.
But the plucky squirrel, unaware of his danger, caught up with the speeding satellite and tried to slow it down.
Boris, that is our fearless leader up there.
You were expecting Werner von Braun?
Oh, I hope he gets down all right.
Me too, because if he doesn't get down, I'll be the fearless leader, and Oh, boy!
Boris, where are you going?
I got to stop that squirrel. He's ruining my career.
And Boris, anxious for promotion, dashed out of the house.
If I can just keep fearless leader orbiting from now on, I get to wear monocle.
High above, Rocky was pushing against the nose cone, trying to slow it down, but to no avail. And inside, fearless leader had finished assembling his anti-missile and was aiming it directly at the unwitting squirrel. Fortunately, at that moment, Rocky happened to spot an old lady far below him who was trying to cross the street. Of course, for a real live TV hero, helping old ladies across the street comes before anything else in the world. So Rocky left his post just as fearless leader pulled the trigger. Of course, he missed. But the recoil was enough to stop the forward motion of the satellite. And can any of you guess what that meant?
Any Pottsylvanian schoolchild could tell you. When the progressive inertial momentum of an orbiting vehicle is diminished, the gravitational declination increases as pi times the quantity v over h.
Which means?
I fall down.
And indeed, the missile dropped like a stone. Meanwhile, Rocky had just finished helping the old lady across the street.
Is this where you want to go, ma'am?
You said it. I mean, yes, indeed, you do the deedy, little fellow.
You sure got a deep voice for an old lady.
I know. I've been feeling low for days.
Oh, I'm sorry. You sure this is where you want to go?
Believe me, I'm in exactly the right spot.
And he was.
Hokey smoke!
We lose more old ladies that way.
But to Rocky's surprise, when the door of the wrecked satellite opened, who should come out but Devil Dan Hatful, followed closely by a sinister figure wearing a monocle.
You know, I don't think that Devil Dan is ever going to stop feuding. Maybe we ought to go see the head of the other family.
You mean Felonious Floyd?
Yeah, maybe he'll stop the feud.
Meanwhile, inside Devil Dan's shack...
So, you were trying to get rid of me, eh, Badenoff?
Who, me, dear old boss man?
Stop drooling on my insteps, Badenoff.
Me trying to get rid of you, dear old chiefy boy? I wouldn't dream of such a thing.
Then take off that monocle. Now that I have arrived, we proceed with part 2 of my plan. You have Moose and Squirrel here?
Of course, fearless leader.
Where?
Right. Ooh, they were here a second ago.
Boris, darling, there they go.
Quick, bring them back here, Badenoff, dead or alive.
I got a choice.
And so it was that as our heroes were hurrying for the cabin of Felonious Floyd, they suddenly heard an ominous sound.
Bullwinkle, those are bloodhounds. They picked up your scent. You know what that means?
It means I got a hole in my pocket.
And the great dogs came nearer and nearer, followed by Boris Badenoff, who was loaded for bear.
Or moose, as the case may be.
Be sure to be with us next time for Dollars and Cents or Putting on the Dog.
Well, I guess that about wraps up another Rocky show.
Certainly hope you enjoyed it. I did. I always say.
Bullwinkle, time for us to go.
Already? Okay, but first, here are some of the people who made this show impossible.
That's not all.
My fingers get tired. Oop! Got away from me again.
Well, see you next time. Ready, Bullwinkle? Hurry!
Oop!
Time now for the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends.
Starring that jet-age aerial ace, Rocket J. Squirrel. And his pal, Bullwinkle the Moose.
Hi, glad to see you again.
Likewise.
We got some great things on the show today.
Like what? Like what?
Well, you ought to know, Bullwinkle. You're in some of them.
Well, let's get started.
Let's see if we can make head or tail of our story so far. Chapter 1, Bullwinkle was invited to a convention of the Missouri Mooses. Meese. Thank you. Chapter 2, when he and Rocky arrived, they found themselves in the middle of a feud between the Hatfuls and the Floys.
Couldn't we sort of skip over this part?
Chapter 3, they were seized by the Hatfuls.
Very painful, too.
And taken to the head of the clan, Devil Dan Hatful, who looked a lot like you-know-who.
Say the name.
Boris Badenov.
You said it.
And in Chapter 4, Boris's superior, fearless leader himself, showed up just as our heroes made their getaway. Everybody understand now?
Yes. Then explain it to me.
But little or no explanation was needed when Rocky heard a mournful sound behind them.
Uh-oh, that sounds like trouble.
And he's got a bad cold, too.
Bullwinkle, those are bloodhounds.
But just then, the sharp-eyed squirrel saw a tiny house ahead with a sign in front that said, Felonious Floy, Revenuers and Republicans keep out.
Bullwinkle, this is Felonious Floyd's house.
I heard the man, Rock.
Well, maybe he can stop this terrible feud.
And our heroes dashed up to the door.
Who's there?
Bullwinkle, that voice. Do you think...
Not very often. Why?
But just then, the door swung open.
What'll it be, strangers?
You're Felonious Floyd.
Don't I look like Felonious Floyd?
You look more like a dry mop.
We were running away from Devil Dan Hatful.
Yeah, and come to think of it, you look an awful lot like him.
Actual, we're cousins, twice removed.
Twice removed?
Once to Sing Sing, once to Alcatraz.
I don't like this a bit, Bullwinkle.
I agree. He must have terrible writers.
Sorry to have troubled you, Mr. Floyd, but, we better be going.
It's all right. Drop in any time.
Like when?
Like right now.
And as Boris pulled the lever, an instant later, the bloodhounds showed up, dragging fearless leader with them.
Welcome, old bossman body boy.
Bad enough. You are on both sides of the feud?
Certainly. This way, I'm a Hatful. This way, I'm a Floyd.
Congratulations, Bad enough. You win the Pottsylvania Two-Faced Medal for double dealing.
Oh, boy, that makes 94 medals.
Wunderschön.
6 more and I can trade them in for a second-hand yo-yo.
Bad enough, you're a lucky, lucky spy.
Meanwhile, our heroes were lying stunned in a vegetable cellar underneath the house.
Where am I?
In a vegetable cellar. Didn't you hear them, man?
What? Speak up.
You got carrots in your ears.
What?
I said you got carrots in your ears.
I can't hear a thing. I got these carrots in my ears.
But carrots in the ears was the least of Bullwinkle's problems, for at that moment the house was being surrounded by hateful hatfuls.
Mighty nice of them strangers to lead us right to the floor house.
What are we fixing to do, Hadley?
We're going to use little old Orvy on them.
Oh, no! Not little Orvy! I'm as mean as they come, Hadley, but that's gone a little too far.
Newt, this is no time to get the collywobbles. Bring up little Orvy.
And with Hadley Hatful directing them, the clan wheeled up little Orvy, an enormous muzzle-loading Civil War cannon.
What do we load it with, Hadley?
Anything that's handy.
And so the Hatfuls filled little Orvy with scrap iron, broken bottles, old shoes, red pepper, and carpet tack.
I'll drop in this anvil just to give it a little body.
In the short while, little Orvy was ready to be fired. The fuse was lit, the Hatfuls scurried for cover, and then as the fuse burned its last quarter-inch, Bullwinkle Moose stuck his head up out of the root cellar directly in front of the muzzle. Don't miss our next episode. One of our meese is missing, or heads you lose.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! No doubt about it. I gotta get another hat.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
So long, Pop.
Where you off to, Junior?
There's a circus going on at the Coliseum.
Well, in your present position, you'll never get there to see it.
What makes you say that, Pop?
Well, look at you.
Oh, my gosh. I put the pony in back of the chariot.
That's what is known as putting the cart before the horse. And while you're getting straightened out, I'll relate a fable illustrating that adage.
But, Pop, I'll miss the circus.
No, you won't. I'll make it short. This is the story of the 3 bears.
I've heard that one.
Charlie Bear and his wife Edna lived in a modest little home on the edge of the forest. One day, after taking in a movie, they returned to their abode and made a rather startling discovery.
Hey, somebody's been eating my borscht.
And somebody's been eating my borscht.
I've heard this story, Pop.
Quiet. Further investigation of the living room brought out another remarkable fact.
Hey, somebody's been sitting in my Danish-type chaise lounge.
Somebody's been sitting in my Danish-type chaise lounge, too.
The mystery increased as they entered the upstairs bedroom.
Pop.
Hey, somebody's been sleeping in our Chinese modern Hollywood bed.
Somebody is sleeping in our Chinese modern Hollywood bed.
That someone turned out to be their rich Uncle Fabian. You heard this one before, Junior?
Uh-uh.
Uncle Fabian, what a pleasant surprise.
Bah! You're only glad to see me because I'm rich.
Oh, tut, what a vile thought. Let me hold your wallet for you, dear Uncle Fabian, sir.
I'll give you a wallet right in the head.
Later that evening, over dinner, a surprise announcement was made.
I have decided to put you 2 in my will.
Oh, what a sweet thing to do.
It sure is. Let me hold your wallet, huh?
There's only one catch. All my life, you know, I've been grumpy and irritable.
Oh, you've noticed that, have you?
Well, before I go to bear heaven, I want to be happy.
Well, Charlie can make you happy, can't you, Charlie?
Sure can. Let me hold your wallet.
Early the next morning, Charlie attempted to make his uncle happy. First of all, he took him to the edge of the cliff.
Look at that view, Uncle Fabian. Doesn't that make you want to smile?
Bah!
And Uncle Fabian pushed Charlie over the cliff.
Well, did you boys have fun today?
I did, but Uncle Fabian didn't.
I decided not to put you 2 in my will.
Oh, you can't do that, Uncle Fabian.
Oh, of course not. Let me hold your wallet, huh?
Tell you what, you've got all day tomorrow to make me happy. If you fail miserably, no legacy.
The next morning rolled around, as mornings usually do.
Now, this here is a golf club, Uncle Fabian, and that there is a golf ball. Now, you hit the ball with the club.
Charlie fully expected that he would get hit instead of the ball, but incredibly enough.
A hole in one! Oh, doesn't that make you happy?
That's when Uncle Fabian took out his number 2 iron and beat his nephew unmercifully about the head.
How's the head feel?
Which one?
Guess we're gonna finish out of the money, huh?
Looks like, babe.
Charles?
Yes, Uncle Ebenezer. Uncle Fabian.
You almost made me happy today. Let's play golf again tomorrow.
If you say so, Uncle Fabian.
Oh, and, see what you can do about keeping the other golfers off the course. I want you and me to play alone.
It was a strange request and not an easy one to fulfill.
I'm sorry, Charlie, but I can't stop the other golfers from playing.
In desperation, Charlie sought the services of an old owl who lived in a cave.
You see this statue of a heart? Place it in front of the first tee and never look at it again. I guarantee you and your rich Uncle Fabian will have the course to yourselves.
Hey, that's great, Owl. How much do I owe you?
8 cents. We got a special on statues of hearts this week.
Charlie wasted no time in rushing to the first tee and placing the statue where the owl had directed. The following morning, golfers from all over the land signed up to play golf, but ran into trouble. For on their way to the first tee, they casually glanced at the heart and were immediately frozen to the spot. Meanwhile, back at Charlie and Edna's house...
No borscht for breakfast, Charlie?
Oh, I ain't got time, Edna. Me and Uncle Fabian are due at the golf course.
Well, you better hurry. Uncle Fabian left an hour ago.
Oh, no! He doesn't know about the heart!
Charlie dashed pell-mell through the streets and got to the course in record time. There his worst fears were confirmed, for standing like a block of ice in front of the statue was Uncle Fabian. To make matters worse, Charlie, too, looked at the statue, and he, too, froze solid. Uncle Fabian was never to be happy, and Charlie and Edna remained penniless. And so, you see, son, never put the cart before the horse.
I get you, Pop. Only there's a better way of saying it.
Oh?
Yeah. Never put the heart before the course.
Never put the... let's go see that circus, Junior.
Hi there! Today's poem is all about my grandfather's clock.
Sure is a big one.
Yup. My grandfather's clock was too large for the shelf, so it stood 90 years on the floor.
How come it's not running?
See, it says always his treasure and pride. It stopped short, never to go again when the old moose died.
Your grandfather's dead, Bullwinkle?
Not exactly. He just sort of disappeared. But that doesn't rhyme so good.
And the clock hasn't run all these years, huh?
What do you mean all these years? He disappeared yesterday.
Yesterday? And the clock stopped? Hey, do you suppose...
Uh-oh. Let me open her up. Grandpa, it's you!
You're expecting maybe John Cameron Swayze?
Well, if that don't beat all, how could anybody be so stupid as to get locked up in a clock?
Stupid? Why, it's easy. Like this.
Oh!
Now there's something you don't see every day, Rocky.
What's that, Grandpa?
A clock with a face on both sides.
Private Bullwinkle, sir, with a message.
Just in time.
Is it important?
Is it? Just look.
Hello out there. Peabody in here.
Anything wrong with a Wayback Machine, Mr. Peabody?
Merely changing the fan belt, Sherman.
I guess we won't be going back into history then, huh?
Oh, on the contrary, my boy, we're all set to invade the city of Paris in the year 1874.
Who are we going to meet?
The eminent French author, Jules Verne. I belted the fan belt into place, and in a twinkling we were hurtled back through time and space. The streets of Paris in those days were filled with horse-drawn carriages. Most of them moved along in sprightly fashion, but one was obviously getting nowhere.
Giddy up, Monsieur Horse.
That poor man is having trouble, Mr. Peabody.
That poor man, Sherman, is Jules Jules Verne.
If you do not make with the feet, I shall be forced to deposit you in the nearest glue factory.
Trying to go somewhere, Monsieur Verne?
You bet your boots, monsieur. I am off to prove a theory.
Chateau theory, Mr. Verne?
Me no, little one. I am trying to prove that one can go around the world in 80 days. If it can be done, then I shall write a book about it.
It's got to be done, Mr. Peabody.
And it shall be done, Sherman, but not in a horse-drawn carriage. Under my direction, we walk to the nearest office of the French Foreign Legion.
Bonjour, monsieur. You wish to enlist?
Yes, but only if we can do duty in Switzerland.
You are in luck, my friend. It just so happened that a detachment of legionnaires is being dispatched to the Alps to fight the Swiss Navy. By the way, how old is this little fellow?
6. Going on 7, though.
Bon, you just get in under the age limit.
5 minutes later, we were on our way.
But if we are in the Legion, how will we go around the world?
We won't be in the Legion long, Monsieur Verne. And we weren't. For no sooner did we arrive in the Alps than the war was called off and we were dismissed from the service.
Well, we got as far as Switzerland. Now what, Mr. Peabody?
That flag over there, Sherman, recognize it?
The Olympics.
Correct. Overriding Jules Verne's objections, we signed up for the downhill slalom run, the most thrilling of all skiing events.
But I cannot ski.
No matter, it's downhill all the way. The starter fired the gun, and the three of us took off. 3 days later, we came to a stop in Venice, Italy.
Can we get some pizza, Mr. Peabody?
No time for that, Sherman. We have a schedule to adhere to. Our next stop, China.
But how do we get there from here?
Simple. We obtained positions as gondoliers and oared our way to the corner of 3rd and Venice. Luckily, the tide was ebb and we were carried out to sea.
7 days we have been adrift without food or water.
You think we have it bad? What about our passengers?
Hey, what's the matter for you? I'm telling my wife I bring home my spaghetti.
You'll have to cable her that you'll bring home chop suey and lychee nuts instead. Land ho!
I must congratulate you, Mr. Peabody. You have got us all the way to China. But I'm afraid we are stuck here.
Mr. Verne is right. How are we going to get across the Pacific?
To anyone but a genius, the problem would have been insurmountable. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. When in Shanghai, get shanghaied. It was a beautiful crossing. Sherman worked as a cabin boy. Jules Verne wrote the captain's log for him. And I worked like a dog swabbing decks. With just 20 days left, we pulled into San Francisco Harbor and checked into the Golden Gate Gym.
Do they have rooms for the night here?
No, we're here seeking employment. See that sign?
Wanted. Sparring partner for John L. Sullivan, leaving for New York tonight.
What is a sparring partner?
Jules Verne found out. It was a rough trip, to say the least. But eventually we reached New York, none the worse for the experience. That is, except for Mr. Verne.
I cannot take much more of this. How many days left?
Exactly 1.
But gee, Mr. Peabody, it's impossible to go from New York to Paris in 1 day.
Nothing is impossible. I wasted no time in rushing us to the shores of the Hudson River.
Look, a rowing race is about to start.
Yes, but not without us. I knew that Yale had the fastest shell in the country and were heavily favored to defeat all competition. It was in this boat that we set ourselves.
Just a moment. You guys can't sit here.
Oh, no. How would it look if you threw away your mascot?
The Yale mascot is a bulldog.
Young man, there's a bit of bulldog in all of us. The race was over. We fairly flew down the Hudson. That's when I took over as coxswain. Stroke, 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 stroke. 24 hours later, we rowed up the River Seine and walked ashore into the streets of Paris.
We did it. We went around the world in 80 days.
Bon, now I can go home and write the book.
Jules Verne did write the book and earned the plaudits not only of France, but of England as well. In fact, they put him on display in the Tower of London.
Really?
Really. Day after day, he stood there with a crown on his head.
In the Tower of London, Mr. Peabody?
Why, of course, Sherman. That's where they always keep the crown jewels.
Well, last time we met Little Orvy, a huge Civil War cannon, which is now being used as a siege gun in the feud between the Hatfuls and the Floys. Little do the hateful Hatfuls know that there isn't a Floy within miles, for the only people in the house are fearless leader and our old nemesis, Boris Badenov, who has merely disguised himself as Felonious Floy.
Or deviled and hatful, as the case may be.
But the two villains are unaware of the presence of little Orby. As Boris says,
I don't want to pry, fearless leader, old superior baby boy, but how come I got to wear this thin fuzz and talk with cornpone accent?
Because at last, Pennsylvania is close to having the ultimate weapon with which we can rule the world.
Sounds yummy. What is it?
I have here a special high-level, top-secret, confidential sketch of the ultimate weapon. Can you be trusted, Badenoff?
Can I be trusted? I swear it.
Then uncross your fingers.
Force of habit, boss man.
Very well. Here is the ultimate weapon.
That's a weapon?
That's the weapon.
But that's just a derby hat.
Not just a derby hat, Badenoff. This is the Kerwood Derby.
The Kerwood Derby?
Quiet, you fool!
The Kerwood Derby?
Jawohl!
and fearless leader told Boris the legend of the fabulous bowler. The Kerwood Derby had first been owned by a cave dweller many eons ago who put it on and said,
Pardon me, my dear. I've got something to do.
Like what?
I'm going to invent the wheel.
And he did. Later on, it was owned by a man named Aristotle, who one day in his bath cried,
Eureka! I have found it!
You found Aristotle's law of displacement and specific gravity?
No, you idiot. I found the soap.
The Kerwood Derby was worn by Philip of Macedonia when he conquered the world, and by Genghis Khan when he conquered the world, and by Julius Caesar when he conquered the world, and by Elvis Presley when he... Oh, never mind. It disappeared for a time, but its last known owner was a Princeton college professor who put it on and said...
Of course, E equals MC squared. Why didn't I think of that before?
Yes, the Kerwood Derby turns anyone who wears it into the smartest man in the world.
So if we get Derby,
I wear it.
And Pennsylvania outsmarts everybody in world.
Correct.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go get it.
There's just one little hitch.
Uh-oh.
It takes somebody special to find the Kerwood Derby.
That's me, boss man.
Somebody with a built-in talent.
That's me.
He must be the stupidest bubblehead in the world.
That's me, Dick. Who that?
This is who that.
But that's Moose, that idiotic Moose Bullwinkle.
Right. He is the dumbest creature in the world, so he is the only one who can lead us to the Kerwood Derby.
That means he's worth millions to us.
Billions. Where is he, Badenoff?
He's right in the cellar, fearless leader.
Then who is that about to get his head blown off?
Yes, right outside the window, Bullwinkle had poked his head out of the root cellar, right in front of the gaping muzzle of little Orby.
If the moose dies, our plan dies.
How about that?
And if the plan dies, Pennsylvania dies.
How about that?
And if Pennsylvania dies, you die.
How about that?
And Boris grabbed a club, leaned out of the window, and swung hard at Bullwinkle's head just as little Orby went off with a roar. When the smoke cleared, nothing was to be seen of the house or the villains or of our heroes either. Is this the end of everything?
Nope, just this episode.
Be with us next time for Bullwinkle Makes His Bid or Going, Going, Gun.
Well, I guess that about wraps up another Rocky show.
Certainly hope you enjoyed it. I did. I always say...
Bullwinkle, time for us to go.
Already? Okay, but first, here are some of the people who made this show impossible. Get tired. Oop! Got away from me again.
Well, see you next time. Ready, Bullwinkle? Alley!
Oop!
The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends.
Starring that Jet A. Jerry Olace, Rocket J. Squirrel, and his pal, Bullwinkle the Moose.
Hi, glad to see you again.
Likewise.
We got some great things on the show today.
Like what? Like what?
Well, you ought to know, Bullwinkle. You're in some of them.
Well, let's get started.
In our last episode, the hateful Hatfuls had just fired a cannon named Little Orby at the house belonging to Polonius Floy. Now, if you've been watching that episode, you would have known the whole plot. But as it is, let's go back a little so you can catch up.
Be careful, mister. This here's mighty hard on a cannon gun.
Inside the house, before the cannon went off, Fearless Leader had just explained the whole foul plot to Boris Badenov, alias Devil Dan Hatful.
Alias Felonious Floyd.
What, you're the head of both families?
Sure.
But that way you can't possibly win.
I always look on the bright side.
Hmm?
I can't possibly lose either.
Achtung, Badenov.
Yes, Fearless Leader.
This is what we are after.
A derby hat?
But it wasn't just a derby hat. This was the legendary Kerwood Derby, whose wearer became the smartest man in the world. The Kerwood Derby had been worn by all the brilliant thinkers of history, men like Sir Isaac Newton.
I'd say that apple bashed my bowler. That proves the theory of gravitation.
It had been worn by Galileo.
Well, we all know the sun, she goes around the earth. Just like... Hey, what am I talk? The earth, she goes around the sun.
And now Fearless Leader was hot on the trail of the Kerwood Derby. There was only one hitch. It had to be found by the stupidest creature alive.
You cold?
Badenov, the moose is right in front of that cannon.
So Boris grabbed a club, smashed Bullwinkle, and drove him down into the cellar just as the gun went off. I say, just as the gun went off. All right, what's the matter?
Little Orvy gets temperamental sometimes.
Well, we can't go on with our story till it goes off again.
Now keep your hair on, stranger. Zeke here will find the trouble. Go on, Zeke.
Oh, here it is. The fuse isn't all the way in like it...
And that's where we wound up last time. The gun fired.
Me and Rocky still in the cellar.
And us up a tree.
In the next county.
Devil Dan, what be you doing here?
I be keeping an eye on you, Ephraim.
I'm Zeke.
Don't argue about details. Mosey on back to next county and bring me that moose.
Right.
And Ephraim.
Zeke.
Bring back doctor, too.
You bet. He'll have you cured of the glanders in no time.
Glanders?
That is a disease of horses. Yep. That's the kind of doctor we got, too.
But we got busted backs and sprained ankles.
That may be what you got, but I know what he'll cure you of.
Glanders?
Glanders.
Oh, boy.
He's also good on split fetlocks and...
Get out of here!
Meanwhile, back at the root cellar...
Is the coast clear, Bullwinkle?
I can't see quite that far, Rock, but there's nothing around closer to hand.
Good. Let's get out of here.
Aren't we going to see Mr. Floyd?
No, sir. I don't think we'll ever get those two families to stop feuding, Bullwinkle.
And besides, he's gone.
You mean he's not in his house?
He may be, but it's gone, too.
And our heroes dashed off.
You know, I wonder whatever happened to that Missouri Meese convention.
I think that convention was just a bit of jiggery-pokery.
They all are, but only after the business meetings are over. Pretty good, Rock. I said, Rock? Rocky, where are you?
Oh, my sainted Aunt Agnes. Rocky has disappeared.
Well, now they've gone too far.
Well, what are you going to do?
I'm gonna disappear, too.
Be sure to see our next episode, The Vanishing American, or No Moose is Good Moose.
And now it's time for over.
Time for the dancing fool, Bullwinkle.
Again? And now for one of our special fairy tales.
Yeah.
Quite some time ago, a young bear, upon reaching his 21st birthday, said to his mother,
I think I'll take a walk in the rain.
You go out in your bare feet and you'll catch cold.
But he paid his mother no heed and took a 3-hour constitutional in what amounted to a torrential downpour. Oddly enough, he didn't catch cold, but he did contract a severe case of up-and-down fever, which ran up and down the coast at that time of year.
I feel awful. Where am I?
Citrus of Lemon Hospital. I'm your nurse, and I shall watch over you until you're well healed again.
The fever-racked Bruin had a nasty time, and for a while it was doubtful whether he would ever pull through. And then, suddenly, instead of taking a turn for the worse, he took a turn for the nurse.
Boy, what you do to me?
The bear got his health, and the nurse got a husband. They were married in the little church around the corner, up the hill, across the tracks from Grandma's house.
I now pronounce you husband and wife. Give the little lady a bear hug.
We now move forward in our story some 10 years later. Mr. and Mrs. Bear reside in this cozy cottage. They have a 10-year-old bear son. Well, that is, he doesn't run around bear. He's a bear, little bear. I mean, well, you know what I mean.
Daddy, where's my baseball glove?
Don't ask me, kid. There's so much junk lying around here, I can't even find a front door.
Oh, it's true. The house was a mess. And it was all because Mrs. Bear sat around all day watching television and munching chocolates.
Ethel! Are you in this room?
I'm over in the corner watching the radio.
The narrator said you were watching television.
Television's busted. I'm watching radio.
Well, look, Ethel, this place is a mess. And it's about time we cleaned up around here.
She cleaned up all right, and she started by mopping up the floor with Mr. Bear.
Leave me alone when I'm watching radio.
This deplorable situation existed for 1 year, and then, one day, Mr. Bear put his foot down.
Ow!
Ooh, I'm sorry, kid. I didn't see you. Ethel, I'm going to make a very important phone call, if I can find a phone.
It took 1 full week, but by tracing the wire, he finally located the instrument.
Hello? Home Economy Bureau? Say, send over a home economist, will you?
Why you doing that?
Because somebody's going to come over and see how we're living, that's what. You'll send one over? Keno, lady. She's on her way.
So is dinner. Porridge is on the table.
Whereabouts is the table?
It's in the dining room somewhere. We'll find it.
Thanks to the steam emanating from the porridge bowls, they found the table and prepared to dine.
Ooh, this porridge is too hot.
Yeah, you're right. It is a trifle warm.
It's too hot for me to eat.
Come on, we'll take a walk in the woods and let it cool off.
What about the home economist?
Let her cool her own porridge.
No. I mean, suppose she gets him and finds nobody home.
So she'll wait.
Well, as if you hadn't guessed by now, the home economist was named Goldilocks.
This place needs dusting.
I don't know how she did it, but the next thing she saw was the porridge on the table.
Better sample this and make out a consumer's report. Brand X is far superior to Brand Y or Z. And it tastes just like the higher-priced mush.
Next in line was the durability test on the furniture.
They're all Danish modern.
Making a note of it, she then went upstairs to examine the bedroom, which was a very difficult thing to do as this was a 1-story house.
3 beds, leaping lizards.
Yes. Goldilocks was once the voice of little orphan Annie before she had her eyes fixed. Anyway, our little home economist tested all 3 beds and eventually fell asleep on the smallest of the 3.
Well, we're home. Let's eat.
Hi! Somebody's been eating my porridge.
Yeah, somebody's been eating mine.
Whoever ate mine even ate part of the bowl.
Mashed bagels.
Don't be silly. It was probably the home economist. Oh, my gosh, look at my rocking chair. It's still rocking.
We've been invaded.
Calm down. I tell you, it's probably the home economist.
It was then that Goldilocks' snoring fell upon their ears.
I hope it isn't those boys from UCLA looking for another mascot.
I'll get my gun.
It was a mighty concerned threesome that ascended the stairs.
I thought this was a 1-story house.
Shh. The snoring's getting louder.
Well, sir, they spotted Goldilocks sleeping in the little bear's bed. Well, that's better.
You in the little bear's bed. Give your name, rank, and serial number.
Oh, hello. I'm Goldilocks, the home economist.
Now, you see, Ethel, I told you. Say, what do you think of our living conditions, Annie?
Goldilocks, I think you're living in squalor.
Isn't that near Beverly Hills?
By squalor, I mean that your living conditions are deplorable, awful, real bad.
That's what I've been telling Ethel for years. What can we do about it?
Move. I shall see to it that you live in a nice, clean, modern apartment specifically designed for bears.
Wonderful!
And so the three bears moved, but they weren't happy.
Nice, clean, modern apartment. Phooey!
Well, at least it's got air conditioning.
Hello there, sailors and other poetry fans. Today's salty yarn is a poem by that old ancient mariner, Alan Cunningham. Oh, a wet sheet and a flowing sea, a wind that follows fast and fills the tight and rustling sail and bends the gallant mast.
Bullwinkle!
And bends the gallant mast, my boys, while...
Bullwinkle, isn't your gallant mast bending a little too far?
Mr. Cunningham says that's how it's gotta be.
Now what are you doing?
I'm balancing the boat by, flipping the jib.
Flipping the jib?
Certainly, see? It's balanced.
Yeah, but suppose the wind changes.
Silly squirrel. Mr. Cunningham says it never changes this time of day.
Moose overboard!
Yeah. Oh, a wet seat and a flowing sea.
Mr. Cunningham says it's a wet sheet.
He knows what he's got. I know what I got. Today's lesson is mighty important, remember?
Bullwinkle is a...
Not that lesson. This lesson.
The Iron Horse, nickname for the first transcontinental train and real name of an animal that ran dead last at Hialeah. But we are more concerned with the former, for Canada in the year 1903 was desperately striving to span the continent by rail. Due to the rugged terrain, however, the tracks had only got as far as that most awesome of natural barriers, Gorgeous Gorge.
Well, Potter, you're an engineer. How do we get tracks over that?
Engineer Potter finally came up with a solution.
We'll float the tracks over on balloons.
The balloon idea might have worked, except that Potter blew up one too many and forgot to let go. An emergency meeting was called.
Montague thinks we should throw the tracks over. Harrigan thinks we should throw Montague over.
Why don't you fellers build a bridge?
They fired the janitor, but kept his idea. Now, in those days, bridge builders were practically non-existent. In fact, the only construction workers were house wreckers, and the biggest house wrecking firm was Edifice Rex. Edifice Rex had a foul reputation, and the same could be said for its general manager, the ever-unpopular Snidely Whiplash.
Look, if the price is right, I'll build your bridge.
We'll pay anything.
That's a little low, but in this case, I'll make an exception.
Construction began the next morning.
Where do you want this case of dynamite, boss? Stick a 365-day fuse in it, light it, and put it on the bridge.
365 days later...
Congratulations, Whiplash. I shall now christen the bridge with this champagne.
Domestic champagne, do it every time.
The bridge went up 40 times and came down the same amount. It was a situation that only the Royal Canadian Mounted Police could handle, and they sent their best men, our valiant hero, Dudley Durite.
I understand you're having trouble with your water heater.
No, it's the bridge. Take a look at it quick. They don't stay up very long. See what I mean? Someone's engaged in sabotage.
I know a couple engaged in Toronto.
You must find the culprit.
Actually, they're going to be married in Quebec.
The first thing you should do is question the engineer.
Egad, Rollo, we've destroyed more bridges than a nearsighted dentist.
Allow me to introduce myself, gentlemen. Constable Mounted Police of the Dudley Do-Rights.
Curses, it's the Pollyanna of the tall timber. What can I do for you, Constable?
I understand that your bridges are falling down.
There's another way of saying that, you know.
Henceforth and forthwith, the next bridge that goes up shall stay up, and I shall stay up with it.
Girder by girder, plank by plank, the bridge began to take shape. Dudley was like a man possessed. He stayed on the job 24 hours a day, never sleeping, never eating.
I have insomnia, and I'm on a diet.
Ah, but Whiplash was a man to be reckoned with.
What is that you are setting on this bridge, sir?
That's a birthday cake.
Those are singularly strange candles on that birthday cake. Pray tell, what do those letters TNT stand for?
Those are the initials of the man whose birthday it is. TNT. Tippecanoe and Tyler.
Shouldn't that be Tippecanoe and Tyler 2?
He won't be 2 till tomorrow.
The final nail was driven home, and the bridge stretched itself majestically across the yawning chasm. That's when Whiplash lit the candles.
Shh. Now you wait right here on the bridge while I go find Tippecanoe and Tyler.
Not one to be a party pooper, Dudley obeyed the request. Whiplash, on the other hand, wasted no time in getting off the ill-fated structure. That is, he almost got off.
Sorry, sir, but this is a toll bridge. You can't cross unless you can pay the toll.
Well, quick, you dunderhead. How much is it?
$83.42. But even if you paid, I couldn't let you cross. This is a train bridge, and you're not a train, are you?
Knowing that it would explode momentarily, Whiplash dashed back to the cake.
Out of my way, do-right. I must blow out the candles.
You cannot do that, sir. That privilege is reserved for Tippecanoe and Tyler.
Mother of pearl, I'm enmeshed in my own cesspool.
But fate was about to step in, for over the railing climbed a pathetic little man who said,
I understand you're throwing a party for me up here.
Don't tell me your name is...
Tippecanoe and Tyler.
Blow out the candles, I implore you.
Just a moment, there is something amiss here. You said Tippecanoe was going to be 2 today. This man looks more like 6.
And Dudley threw the cake over the side.
You're sure the trouble is over?
Positive, Inspector. In fact, I collected all these spare sticks of dynamite, brought them back here to the post, and put them in your file cabinet.
What file cabinet?
That file cabinet.
That's a pot-belly stove. Hurry, see if the fire's still burning.
I think it's out now, sir. Sir? Oh, sir! Yoo-hoo, Inspector!
It's a well-known fact that the hat makes the man, be he rich man, poor man, spaceman, thief, soldier, sailor, or Indian chief. It's the hat that does it. Just imagine what would happen if an admiral looked like this, or an astronaut like this, or a poor man like this.
Ridiculous!
Yes, hats are important, all right, but no hat in history ever caused the controversy that this one did, for this is the Curwood Derby, which makes anyone who wears it the smartest person in the world, and it's being eagerly sought by Boris Badenov and his fearless leader.
Once my head is under that hat, Badenov.
You'll be smart.
What?
I mean smarter, dear old chiefy boy, honey pot, superior officer Dow.
Badenov, you're making my cuffs soggy.
Sorry.
And what happens when your fearless leader is all-powerful?
Pottsylvania rules the world.
Hail, Pottsylvania! Hail to the black and the blue! Hail, Pottsylvania! Sneaky and crooked, through and through. Down with the good guys, up with the boss. Under the sign of the Triple Cross. Oh, hail, Pottsylvania! Hail, hail, hail! Himmelwerfer, was ist los?
What else? It's hail, and you asked for it.
There's only one hitch in the villain's plan to find the lost derby. It must be found by the stupidest creature alive, which up to our last episode was Bullwinkle Moose. But then his hero, Rocky Squirrel, suddenly disappeared, and a moment later, so did Bullwinkle. Well, it seems there's nothing left to do but start another series.
You wouldn't dare!
Rocky, what's up?
I am, and so is Bullwinkle.
Yes, our two heroes were dangling from trees high above the ground where they had been snatched by a couple of cunning traps laid in their path.
Yeah, but who'd want to trap us?
Especially upside down.
We uns would, Moose.
Who, you uns?
We uns is hatfuls, that's who uns.
But why trap us? Us?
'Cause we got to take y'all to Devil Dan.
Both of us?
No, not y'all, just y'all.
And one of the hatfuls leveled his gun upward.
Look out, Bullwinkle!
He got me!
No, he didn't, Bullwinkle. It was your rope. Your rope.
I know, and I'm at the end of it too, Rock.
Grab 'em, boys.
And the jubilant hatfuls lugged the dazed Bullwinkle into the woods while Rocky fumed helplessly high above.
Hey, I can't get the trap off my foot. Well, there's only one thing to do.
And the plucky squirrel zoomed straight upward to the end of his rope. The cord drew tighter and tighter. And finally a tree limb snapped and Rocky was free, except for a 10-foot branch trailing behind him.
Hang on, Bullwinkle, I'm coming.
Down the aerial speedster flashed lower and lower.
Run, Zeke, run. Here comes that pesky squirrel.
Well, I got just a thing for pesky squirrel.
What's that?
My pesky squirrel gun. I'll stay here, and when he goes past, I'll let him have it.
Sure enough, when Rocky flashed by, Zeke rose to his feet and leveled his rifle. Unfortunately for him, Zeke had forgotten about the trailing tree branch. Well, the branch saved Rocky that time, but then as he approached Bullwinkle's captors...
Hey, you guys, drop that moose!
The branch caught in the fork of another tree, and Rocky was snapped down and out of sight.
Well, that takes care of him, Alfred. Let's go.
I could sure use a squirrel tail for my car aerial.
There's no time. Let's go.
And the hatfuls hurried through the woods, bearing the bewildered Bullwinkle toward a sinister hut where a rather unpleasant reception committee awaited him. Don't miss our next episode, Hello, My Booby, or Pleased to Meet You.
Well, I guess that about wraps up another Rocky show.
Certainly hope you enjoyed it. I did. I always say...
Bullwinkle, time for us to go.
Already? Okay, but first, here are some of the people who made this show impossible. Get tired. Oop! Got away from me again.
Well, see you next time. Ready, Bullwinkle? Ollie!
Oop!
Time now for the adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Friends.
Starring that jet-A Jerry Lace, Rocket J. Squirrel, and his pal, Bullwinkle the Moose.
Hi, glad to see you again.
Likewise.
We got some great things on the show today.
Like what? Like what?
Well, you ought to know, Bullwinkle. You're in some of them.
Well, let's get started.
In our last episode, Bullwinkle had been moose-napped by a band of hateful hatfuls. Rocky tried to follow him, but ran into a little trouble with a tree. Now Bullwinkle is being carried into a sinister hut deep in the woods where a rather unpleasant reception committee awaits him.
Okay, fearless leader, there is Moose. How do we get him to lead us to Curver Derby?
Very simple, bad enough. We simply brainwash him.
Sure enough, the hapless moose was taken into a small room and left there with 3 expert brainwashers. Hours went by, and finally the door swung open.
Moose is brainwashed, yes?
Moose is brainwashed, no.
Why is this?
Not enough brain to wash.
I sure feel clean-headed, though.
Bad enough, we must get Moose under our control.
Easy, boss man. Looky here.
What's that?
Beautiful dreamer hypnotism kit.
How does it work?
First, I use little Daisy Buzzer to get his attention. Then I use whirling disc to focus his eyes. Then is put on special Google glasses. Look deep into his eyes and say, sleep, you are going to sleep. Pretty good, huh, boss? Boss, fearless leader. Hey, wake up!
What were you saying?
Ain't my hypnotism...
It'll never work.
Oh, boy. Let me give it a try, fearless leader. What have we got to lose?
Billions of dollars and world domination.
I mean, aside from that.
Oh, very well. Go ahead.
And Boris slipped into the room with Bullwinkle.
Hey, it's Mr. Devil Dan.
Oop. You kidding, Moose? I be felonious Floy, I be.
I would have swore you had a beard just a second ago.
No, I was just looking on you upside down like this.
Oh.
Now, attention. Watch the... Hey, Moose, watch the disc.
But it was too late. Bullwinkle was already in a deep trance.
You couldn't do this to me. I paid $2.98 for this thing. You got to watch the whirling disc like this. You got to look at the glasses when I say sleep. Sleep. You're going to...
And so an hour later, when an impatient, fearless leader opened the door of the room, he saw two figures sitting in a trance.
Townsend, Donut, bad enough. Wake up.
Please, Mama, not in the head. Oh, it's you, fearless leader.
Get to work on that moose.
Right away, bossman. You are going to look for a derby.
Yeah, derby.
Meanwhile, back in the woods, Rocky had finally succeeded in getting the trap off his foot.
There! Now I'm free to follow Bullwinkle. But how?
The sharp-eyed squirrel noticed that the bark had been knocked off several trees.
Aha! That's where Bullwinkle's antlers must have scraped against them.
And with an eye like an eagle, the plucky squirrel went from tree to tree until he reached the end of the trail.
Whoop!
Looking for somebody, stranger?
Was that you making these marks on the trees?
I cannot tell a lie. I did it with my little hatchet.
Say, what's your name?
Washington.
I'll bet your first name is George.
No, Martha.
Well, my mistake. I was looking for a moose.
Oh, him? He's in there.
Fearlessly, he zoomed through the window of the sinister cottage only to find it empty.
Where can he be?
Where indeed? For at that moment, Bullwinkle was walking in a trance just ahead of Boris and Fearless Leader.
Derby. I must find a derby.
It's working, fearless leader.
And there's the derby now.
Now?
Already?
So soon? Has Bullwinkle really ended his quest? We'll find out next time in Under Bullwinkle's Bowler or The Wide Open Spaces.
Fish biting, son?
Nary a nibble all day, Pop.
Well, it's no wonder you can't catch a fish using a donut for bait.
I know, but I've been digging for worms all afternoon, and I couldn't find a single one. Besides, the donut's chocolate.
That's true, but you can't expect to find worms in the afternoon. You have to get up early. Remember the old saying?
It's the early bird that catches the worm.
Now, you take the fable of the robin, the pelican, and the angleworm. It was a great day for the kingdom of Camelittle, which, needless to say, was a great deal smaller than Camelot. For on this day, King Leo I was to be crowned absolute monarch of all he surveyed.
But I can't see a thing. This bucket is clear down over my eyes.
I am sorry, Your Grace. It's the only thing we could find for a crown.
Good King Leo I refused to go through with the coronation. It was then the loyal Camelittle Lillians took matters into their own hands. Working in the jewel mines night and day, they succeeded in unearthing 10 fabulous gems which they presented to His Highness.
Now we're getting someplace.
The gems were given to the royal crown maker, who, grabbing the first thing at hand, set them into a large beer mug.
How about that? I'm the only king in the world who has a crown that sparkles and has a head on it.
So King Leo was crowned, and all went well for a fortnight. Then one morning, as he sat on the throne...
Hey, Your Highness, hey! You lost one of your rocks.
Sure enough, where once a gleaming ruby had nestled, naught but a hole remained. Summoning the royal private eye, the king demanded an explanation.
After much consideration and perusal of the facts, I have reached a definite conclusion. I know who did it.
Who?
A thief?
Oh.
It was decided that a more drastic measure be taken.
We shall lock the crown in the royal safe.
And as an added precaution, the king went with it. Unfortunately, when the safe was eventually opened...
Good Lord, it's incredible.
Yes, the amethyst was back in the crown, but the king was gone. There in His Highness's place was a ransom note.
Leave 5 million finsters inside the refrigerator by midnight or the king dies.
There was nothing left to do but comply with the fiendish request. 5 million finsters were placed inside the refrigerator, but on the outside an elaborate alarm system was installed.
The clock in the tower will strike 4 at midnight. The door of the refrigerator will swing open, the light will come on, and we'll have the villain.
At exactly 12 o'clock midnight, the clock in the tower struck 4, the refrigerator door opened, and the light did come on. And there on the top shelf, counting the finsters, was of all things a worm.
200 finsters, 201 finsters.
Seize him!
You've got to get up early in the morning to catch me.
And with that, he swooped up his ill-gotten finsters and made good his escape. The fox was no fool. In order to get the king, he had to catch the worm. But foxes are not worm catchers, birds are. Birds like robins and pelicans.
The fate of the king is in your hands. Get that worm.
So they began their pursuit immediately, following the worm's trail, which led to a tiny hole in the ground.
That's his owl, all right.
How can you tell?
Listen.
1,008 finsters, 1,009.
We'll smoke him out.
Taking a bit of incense and a dash of myrrh, the robin opened a tiny box, placed the mixture inside, lit it, closed the box, and dropped it into the hole. Immediately, the box popped back up.
Open before Christmas. Now, isn't that nice?
Righto. For a worm, that's a pretty sweet gesture.
I thought worm catching was for the birds.
Oh, it is. We tried every afternoon for a week to catch that little rascal.
Afternoon? No wonder. Even I know it's the early bird that catches the worm.
By golly, he's right.
So the next morning, in the chill early dawn, they resumed the hunt.
Man, it's colder than a well-digger's ankles.
You can say that again.
It's colder than a
Never mind. Look, in the road ahead.
There stood the worm, counting the last of his finsters.
4,900,099. 5 million. It's all here.
So are we.
The worm soon found himself behind bars. The king was returned to his throne. The worm got 10 years, and the robin and the pelican each got a severe cold. Yes, although they'd caught the worm, the chill of the early morning laid them both up with a case of double pneumonia. And so you see, Junior, that's why I always say it's the early bird that gets the worm. True?
True. However, Pop, you got the last word wrong.
How so?
The way you told it, it's the early bird that gets the germ.
Here's that master of all trades with Jack from none, Mr. Know-It-All.
Hello there, friends. Today we benefit from my highly successful book, How to Teach a Mean Bully a Lesson at the Beach. First, it is essential to find a lovely young girl in front of whom you can show off by defending her honor. Pardon me, lovely lady, but I wish to defend your honor should a big, rough, mean, loathsome bully kick sand in your eyes and... Which brings us to point 2. Always be careful in selecting a real lady to defend. Here's a real one. Now, we wait for a bully to come by and kick sand. Notice how I allow him to build up a false sense of security by pretending to ignore him. Now comes the really meaty part. See, for 3 months I study my book, How to Teach a Mean Bully a Lesson at the Beach. And now I'm ready. Pardon me, young lady, but should a bully come along, I am prepared to defend your honor. Notice that a bully is approaching. Pardon me, sir, but you are a cad. You threw sand at us, and I am prepared to teach you a lesson you will never forget. Well, I lost the battle, but I've gained a friend. Right, little lady?
Gosh, Mr. Know-It-All, looks like your book was a failure.
No, Rock, it was a brilliant success.
Success?
Sure, look. That's the book she's been reading.
again. Peabody here. All through with your spaghetti, Sherman?
Couldn't take another bite, Mr. Peabody.
Good, then we're off to Italy.
For more spaghetti?
No, for a meeting with that illustrious Italian adventurer, Casanova. I instructed Sherman to set the Wayback Controls for 1755. Behaving in its customary magnificent fashion, the Wayback Machine took us to the main gate of Italia-Catraz prison.
What are we doing here, Mr. Peabody?
We're waiting for Casanova.
Who's he visiting?
Himself. He's been in prison for 10 years.
What for?
For 10 years.
No, I mean on what charge?
Impersonating a Russian spy. Here he comes now. Even as I spoke, the gate opened and out came Casanova. In one hand was a large stone, which he proceeded to hurl through the warden's window.
What did he do that for, Mr. Peabody?
Offhand, I'd say for another 10 years. The guards quickly apprehended him, and he was quickly swallowed up behind the large gray walls. Luckily, it was visiting day, and we were allowed to see him in his cell. Well, Cass, what's going on?
Go away. I'm no need a mouthpiece. I'm very happy where I am.
But, Mr. Casanova, you've got to go home.
Yes, you're supposed to write your memoirs, you know.
Judge, just to give me another 10 years. Hey, ain't that wonderful?
It was hard to understand why the legendary romanticist was ecstatic over being in prison. Then I saw the reason. So did Sherman.
Wow! Look, Mr. Peabody. Female guards.
I wouldn't mind doing 1 to 10 myself.
It's time for your exercise, Cass.
Hot lasagna.
Now, usually a prisoner goes to the exercise yard and plays a little handball, but in this prison it was different. Exercise consisted of 1 hour of cha-cha-cha. Not only that, but dinner consisted of not a tin plate shoved through a slot in the cell door, but a sumptuous banquet in the Escoffier room next to the torture chamber.
Pheasant or squab?
Pizza.
No wonder he doesn't want to leave.
Yes, but he's going to. We wasted no time in seeking out the warden.
Sure, it's all right by me if a Casanova goes home. I've been trying to get rid of him for 15 years.
Then we must make him want to leave.
Don't you worry about that.
The warden had a definite plan in mind. First, he cut out Casanova's cha-cha-cha exercises and sent him to work on the rock pile. But Casanova was more than equal to the occasion. He converted the rocks into beautifully sculptured statues.
Boy, I love my work.
Golly, Mr. Warden, he still doesn't want to leave.
Oh, no? I got a way to make him go.
Attention, convict number 8269, otherwise known as Casanova. You have a visitor in the yard.
Quick to obey, Casanova left his cell and adjourned to the large prison yard.
Now we fix him. I pull this lever that locks all of the cells, and a Casanova can't get it back in. He got to go home.
The wily warden pulled the lever, the cells closed, and indeed Casanova was locked out.
Hey, that's a dirty pool. Let me back in.
Casanova, go home!
It looked as if the warden's plan had succeeded. To celebrate, we accepted the warden's invitation to stay for dinner, and it was during the minestrone that the trouble began.
Quick, Warden, it's a break!
In a matter of minutes, searchlights were flooding the walls, but there was no sign of an escaped prisoner.
That's funny.
Not really. You see, this isn't a break out, it's a break in. Sure enough, a check of the cells revealed that convict number 8269 was back.
Look who's here, Warden. You bad penny.
I give up.
You may, but I don't. Casanova will leave this prison within 60 seconds, or my name isn't...
Mr. Peabody.
Correct. I took the liberty of transferring all of the Italia-Catraz guards to another prison. Here come the new ones.
But those ain't the lady guards.
Precisely. The only reason Casanova stays here is because he's surrounded by beautiful women. Watch how he reacts to this.
Hey, Sally, how come you growing a beard?
I ain't a Sally, I'm a Max.
Maxine?
Maximilian.
Maximilian? That's no fair. Let me out of here.
Jail was no longer jail to Casanova. He quickly departed.
Looks like he'll write his memoirs now, right, Mr. Peabody?
Oh, definitely, Sherman. And in his account of his sojourn at this prison, I hope he mentions the warden.
Yeah, the warden's a nice guy.
So nice that he paroled every prisoner in his prison.
And barrels, too.
Barrels, Sherman?
Sure, all those barrels have parole stickers on them.
Well, there's nothing unusual about that. We've all heard of parole out the barrel.
Well, last time it looked as if the search for the Kerwood Derby had ended, for in one of his better fiendish plans, Boris hypnotized Bullwinkle and sent him off to look for the fabulous bowler.
You must look for a derby. A derby.
A derby. A derby.
And in just a little while, Bullwinkle stopped and shouted,
"Where's the derby now?"
See, fearless leader? When I fiendish plan 'em, they stay fiendish plan.
But look what derby he's pointing at.
Roller derby. Uh-oh. Try again, Moose.
And the hypnotized Bullwinkle tried his best. After a long hike, he pointed out the Kentucky Derby. And after a still longer hike, he pointed out the Brown Derby. But when the trio returned to Peaceful Valley, he still hadn't found the Kerwood Derby.
And what's more, look who's coming.
Sure enough, high above them, Rocky Squirrel was blazing a streak in the sky as he sought his pal.
Bullwinkle, where are you?
Did somebody call?
Quick, he's coming out of it.
Listen, Moose. When you wake up, you will look for the Kerwood Derby. The Kerwood Derby. Do you understand?
No, but I'll do it anyways.
Good. Now let's go before that nosy squirrel shows up.
No sooner had the villains hidden themselves than Rocky zoomed into the scene.
Bullwinkle! Bullwinkle, it's you!
It is?
Don't you recognize me?
I don't even recognize me.
I'm Rocky.
You sure are.
Don't you know me?
The voice is familiar, but I don't place the goggles.
I'm Rocky, your pal. We've been buddies for years.
What have you done for me lately?
Oh, come out of it, Bullwinkle.
Rocky, it's you.
Boy, you look like you're in a trance.
Yeah, but don't I always?
Something awful funny's going on in Peaceful Valley, Bullwinkle.
Really? I haven't heard a laugh yet.
What do you think?
I think I ought to get a derby.
What?
I don't know what it is. I just gotta have a derby.
It's working, fearless leader. You can always count on Hotshot Badenoff.
This is no time to buy a hat, Bullwinkle.
I can't help it, Rock. I got to find me a derby.
And Bullwinkle, still under Boris's control, began a hunt for a hat. And the first place he went to, of course, was a hat store.
So that's where we find the Kerwood Derby, eh, Badenoff?
But
dozens of our smartest secret agents have combed the world for that derby. What chance do you think a stupid moose has of finding it in an ordinary hat store?
Not very good, eh?
No chance at all, Mr. Not-So-Hotshot Badenoff.
Fearless leader.
What?
Give us a little smile.
Schweinhund!
Forget it.
You know, I think we shorten your name, Badenoff, from Hotshot to just Shot.
Meanwhile, inside the store, Bullwinkle was trying on hat after hat. None of them fit very well.
I can't understand it, sir. I've tried every size derby we have.
What size do you usually take, Bullwinkle?
Regular moose size.
What's that?
7 and 5/32.
7 and 5/32.
Unless I just got a haircut, then it's 7 and 3/32.
But nobody carries that size hat. It's ridiculous.
No derby, huh?
Now, wait. Just a minute. Now, there's one hat that's been on our shelves for years and years. Maybe.
And the clerk climbed a high ladder and from a dusty shelf took down a hat box covered with cobwebs.
Does it have the size marked on it?
Let's see. Nope, just the name of it.
What's that?
Far as I can make out, it says the Kerwood Derby.
Kerwood Derby?
The Kerwood Derby?
You notice kind of an echo in here?
Oh, don't miss the next episode if you can. Or can't. Or, anyway, it's called $1 Million Carton or Jack in the Box.
Well, I guess that about wraps up another Rocky show.
Certainly hope you enjoyed it. I did. I always say.
Bullwinkle, time for us to go.
Already? Okay, but first, here are some of the people who made this show impossible.
That's not all.
The fingers get tired. Got away from me again.
Well, see you next time. Ready, Bullwinkle? Alley!
Oop!